What's going on, Foot Clan? Before we start today's show, I want to tell you about a big hotness. It's hotness. The Ultimate Draft Kit, you know that it's ready. You know that it's out there. You're in there. You're looking at it. Well, we just made another huge addition. We're talking consistency charts. We're talking not just the career, which you can have a look at that. How has Aaron Rodgers been every single year of his career? You can also look back at 2016 every single week. You want to know if Doug Martin was a running back too in week 5? Boom. It's there for you. It's highly visual, easy to get through, in the pinch, in the blink of an eye. UltimateDraftKit.com.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the FantasyJocks.com studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
The Fantasy Footballers.
That's who we are.
Bring in the goodness.
That's what we do.
Thursday, June 15th.
That's the day.
People are going to think we rehearsed. Welcome to the show. It is a very special episode. This show very much, to me, kind of sums up what we're about as a show. We spend the time and effort. We watch the film. We dig deep into the stats, and we project players, and we're highly analytical. But that is but a pie slice of the fantasy football experience. There is more to that, and that is what the show is about. It is about your league. It is about having fun. It is about engaging with the sport beyond the statistics. And it takes thinking about fantasy football in different ways. Holistically. That's a good way to put it. To be a great player. And that is the thing that we've wanted to get out there. One, you should be having a blast. And we certainly try to reinforce that reality for your fantasy league. You should be having fun whether you win or lose. I need is way more fun to win.
I was going to say winning helps a lot.
But it should be a good experience, and it should be it's going to be a great show because today we have a very special show. We have 5 ways to become a better fantasy football player. Now, that might sound like a basic title. But we think every single fantasy football player will get something out of today's show because this is not all about the basics. This is about giving you 5 ways to become better at playing fantasy football, ways to think, and we think it's going to be highly engaging.
Some of these you might have already done. If you've done them, then you will realize what a difference it has made when it comes to fantasy football for you. I know when the three of us sat around the room and tried to craft okay, what makes you better? What when you it's like in jiu-jitsu, you get the next belt color and then you get the next belt color and you keep leveling up. We sat around and thought about, okay, well, what do we do?
Let's get some stripes on them belts.
Let's get some stripes on the belt. What things really helped level us up? And and those things that we've seen many other people okay, yeah, they're better. They have this in their belt, and those are what we're dealing with today.
And these aren't things that are, okay, draft a quarterback in the 7th round every single time. These aren't direct strategic points of view necessarily. It's not like stat-oriented. This is how to think about fantasy football. I would still call them strategy, but we'll get to it. We'll get to it very soon. On Twitter, you can find us at the FF Ballers. Mike told you the career charts are now live in the UDK.
Man. They are hot.
And if you already have the UDK, this is just a little bonus.
I love Michael Keaton.
And if you don't have the UDK, this is a little pat on the butt. Go get it. It doesn't cost anything different, but some extra features.
It really should, but it doesn't.
We talked to Mike. We said, no. Let him have
it for free. UltimateDraftKit.com. All right, quick question of the day, guys. What player have you been changing your opinion on lately? So a little temperature check. Is there a player you were bullish on that you're starting to fade, or vice versa? Somebody you were like, man, I don't like him, and now all of a sudden you see a future in fantasy football 2017 for this player. Who are you changing your opinion on?
I will jump in here first. And the Ultimate Draft Kits, you'll know that if you're in there, you see there is a blurb on every single player of note. And this player, who I am now starting to reevaluate my opinion on them, Austin Seferian Jenkins. I had on the original draft was a one-word blurb on him. It said, "Welp," and that was it. But then a lot of things started to come out, a lot of news.
Jason's face, let me just put this out there. I am 1,000,000% on Mike's side on this.
Yeah.
So just so you're aware.
No, I know you are.
Okay.
I know you are. And the truth is, I'm not completely against what your opinion is on Austin Seferian Jenkins. I'm just saying it's gross to say. It's hard to say.
Yeah, for what he has done to fantasy players in the past, but all the news came out. The guy had a drinking problem, and he addressed it. He is clean. He has lost 25
That's
pounds.
not 5 pounds.
No.
That's a lot of weight.
That's one of the best ways to tell as well. You know, when you see the physical changes, it's like, okay, there's been a change.
He's doing what he has to do to get back on the field. The Jets still did not cut him despite he pleaded guilty for a DUI. He is suspended for 2 games. But the Jets have nobody left. They cut Eric Decker. Anyone of value that we are used to, they've said goodbye. And now you are left with a bunch of rookie pass catchers, Robbie Anderson, and Austin Seferian Jenkins, who was an early second-round pick. He is a monster of a man in stature. He's an athletic freak. His agility and catch radius are off the charts when you're looking at him on Player Profiler. He's just – the potential is there for him. Things clearly off the field did not match what was going with his skill set. But if the guy has his life back in order and can move forward, he's still very young. And the league has not given up on Austin Seferian Jenkins. I'm not calling for him to be at tight end 1 at this time, but he's rising. He's a tight end 2. We picked him up in our Fantasy Pros Dynasty
has
League.
to catch the ball.
Exactly.
In New York.
That's exactly
what
my
it comes
point.
down to is with Eric Decker gone, with Brandon Marshall gone, you've got Quincy Enunwa, rookies.
It's just an opportunity for him. If you were trying to come back from what he's coming back from, and you said, hey, I need one more shot, the table is set for you,
yes.
ASJ. You had – even with the issues in the past, he had 4 touchdowns on 21 receptions in 2015.
In week 1 last year, he was a tight end 1. I know that because of the consistency charts. Thanks, Jason.
You're welcome.
But it's talent, opportunity for Austin Seferian Jenkins, and I'm very excited to see what he does this year.
All right, so you have ASJ as a player you're changing your opinion on. Mine is going to be shocking, but I'm going to be honest.
I'm very curious.
Hold on. Do I need like a Gallagher plastic suit here?
But I'll play the sad diary.
Oh, no. Is that
you're going
bad?
down. You're going down on some. Oh, no.
I really I still love you.
Uh-oh.
I still love you a lot, but I'm starting to have a little bit of pause with Terrelle Pryor.
Oh, no! Yes! This is so great!
Now,
I was so worried you were going John Brown.
Oh, well, that one I did a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
But
tell us more.
Here's all I'm going to say about Terrelle Pryor. Look, the question's in front of me. I have to answer it. Who have you been changing your opinion on lately? Terrelle Pryor is in a great situation. He came into a team with one of the more highly accurate quarterbacks in the league, an opportunity with Deshaun Jackson, Pierre Garçon out the door. I think Terrelle Pryor is going to make a huge impact this year. But there are a lot of pass catchers I love in Washington. And the 2 that Kirk Cousins have the best built-in rapport with are players I think are super talented. It would be one thing if
Crowder and Reed?
Crowder and Reed.
Okay.
It would be one thing if he went to some place and they had some receivers and the quarterback had a rapport with them, but I didn't think they were any good. It's another thing to go to Washington and have a player. I think Jamison Crowder is great. I think Jordan Reed is amazing. And I think Josh Jackson will have a role. And so because of that, I wonder what the ceiling really is for Pryor. I think things have to go in his way tremendously for him to be a top 10 type of wide receiver. Is it possible? Yeah, but I see it more as one of those situations that could also go the way of Brandon Lloyd when he joined New England. He was a free agent coming off of literally a #1 fantasy football season with the Denver Broncos, went to New England with a great quarterback and situation, and so the hype train was off the chain. Now you have kind of Pryor going there, and it could work out. I'm not saying that, but my opinion is, man, I can see a way for it not to work out now.
Oh. So you've been listening to our previous episodes is what you're saying, and you've been hearing me say all those things for the last few months. Got it.
I see both. The potential for Pryor
Certainly.
is massive. Everything
the guarantee factor has changed. It says, who have you been changing your opinion on?
Right.
My guarantee factor for Terrelle Pryor, my risk rating for Terrelle Pryor has gone up.
Okay.
He's higher risk than I originally believed.
Everything for me for Pryor is tied into his ADP, which
that's totally fair.
Is flying up to a range where he's going to become actually risky. If he stays and if you can get him in the 5th round, I still think that's well worth it.
Honorable mention to John Brown.
Yeah.
Who has gone down my rankings considerably.
Yeah, I worry a little bit about my John Brown love as well. So he could have made this list. For me, the player that I just wanted to answer honestly and say who have I over the last week taken a look at and been surprised with and kind of adjusted my rankings, and that is Tyrell Williams. Tyrell Williams is last year he was the wide receiver 15 in half-point scoring. The other 14 players of the top 15 at wide receiver are all being drafted in the top 26. Larry Fitzgerald is the lowest, being drafted at 26.
You're saying for wide receiver.
For
wide
the
receiver.
top 15.
In the top 26 wide receiver.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Terrelle Pryor.
Tyrell Williams?
Tyrell Williams is being drafted, if he's being drafted, as the 60th wide receiver off the board.
One of these things is not
right.
like the
I mean,
other.
it's not like, okay, Keenan Allen is coming to town, right? That happened. They drafted Mike Williams.
It was actually Santa Claus.
That happened. And so now we're taking a top 15 wide receiver and just completely – it's not like, okay, let's move him. He's not going to be 15. Maybe that was an outlier. Maybe he should be more in the 20s. But now these other pieces come in. So he's in the 30s.
60.
Let's put him in 60? I can't imagine that the Chargers, with Phillip Rivers, who had such a good rapport – Tyrell Williams is a young player they were excited about. We talked about him early last year, and
let me call you out for a second, though.
Sure.
Yeah, are you now saying that you believed he was a 60s guy?
I am
because
saying
if you're
yes.
saying your opinion is changing,
I
you
am
believed
saying
he
that.
was a 60s
I am saying
guy.
that I forgot. I wrote him off.
Okay, so
when I looked at my
personally did.
rankings, when Mike Williams came to town and Keenan Allen came back, I did what most people did, which is just when it comes to Travis Benjamin, Tyrell Williams, you just kind of discount them. Like they're completely out of the league. And when I looked, it really was because of the work I was doing on the consistency charts. When I saw what Terrelle Pryor did last year, week by week,
Williams.
Tyrell
oh my
Williams.
goodness, all these Tyrells.
You forgot him.
They're
you
different
can't even,
names.
You can't even say his name right.
Well, he's barely on my mind, right? I mean, he's just now coming back. In a couple weeks, I will remember Tyrell Williams.
All right.
But right now, Tyrell Williams, when I was looking through those consistency charts, I was blown away with he was really, on a weekly basis, a helpful fantasy player last year who is undrafted, and that doesn't usually happen. Now, could he go Kamar Aiken? Could he be just the beneficiary of, injuries in front of him, and he's going to go away? It could happen. But how could you not take that risk when he's
there is no
at
risk.
the end of the draft? I mean, the guys that are going in front of him –
59. Don't give me 59 names, Jason.
No, I'm just saying Zay Jones and Tyler Lockett and Kevin White. These are guys that are going ahead of him because of potential.
Yeah,
but
now you have Mike
Tyrell
Williams
has done it. He did
opportunity.
it this last year. So I would rather take my flyer on Tyrell.
We need to move on.
Sure.
We need to move on from Terrelle Pryor and Tyrell Williams and ASJ. All right. Before I'm not going to do a whole notes segment today, news and notes segment, because I want to get into the main event. I want to talk about these 5 ways that you can become a better fantasy football player for this upcoming year. But real quick, John Ross has shoulder surgery, Bengals first-round pick. Might not be ready for the start of training camp.
Yeah.
Had surgery, is still recovering.
That's bad news.
Gio Bernard might be held out of the first couple regular season games. In my mind, I think Gio Bernard at this point can be nearly written off.
Whew. Man.
If he's coming back from that significant of an injury and you mix that in with Joe Mixon, Jeremy Hill in the mix, not written off, but severely discounted. I think it's going to be hard for him to break in 3-4 weeks into the season into whatever rotation is going on. I do.
Oh, I completely agree.
Especially coming off an ACL where it might take you extra time. Look at Deion Lewis. He didn't come back with a vengeance last year. Did you ever really feel like Deion Lewis was back?
No.
There was a week.
Yeah, so I think there'll be a week
hope.
of Gio, but I think you're never going to really feel like he's back. And then Orleans Darkwa.
Oh, in terrible Smash Jackson news.
Yeah, Smash Jackson took off.
This is Paul Perkins news. This is not Smash Jackson news when the news goes bad.
When the news is bad, it's Paul Perkins.
I mean,
news.
Orleans Dark was a great name.
It is.
Are we in agreement there?
Oh, it's a great name.
Yeah. Orleans Darkwa, extensive first-team work. This is the problem. Shane Breen, Orleans Darkwa, Wayne Gallman.
I mean, Shane Vereen, I get.
Now, Wayne Gallman probably works in
Darkwa?
accounting with Paul Perkins.
Oh, for sure.
But
Orleans Dark
look,
was solving crimes. That guy is a beast.
Is that because you're making a Darkwing Duck connection?
It could be. It could be.
You didn't even think about that. That's just underneath. All right, so much to read into that. Not a lot from me other than the fact that Orleans Darkwa did come back after being a free agent. They brought him back. He's getting some reps. I don't know why.
Was Orleans Darkwa healthy at the end of the year when Paul Perkins took over?
No,
that
he got hurt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that does matter then.
Yeah, it does. All right, we're going to get into the main event here. Before we do, I want to thank today's sponsor, PristineAuction.com. We could not be bigger fans of Pristine Auction. You can see them right on our wall. There's a brand new Diggs jersey. I don't know if there has been an autographed jersey that we have switched out on the wall that has gotten more praise and attention than the Diggs jersey got
people
on
Diggs?
YouTube.
People love the purple.
People went crazy about this. We have a Pristine Auction autographed jersey. They are the leaders in sports memorabilia sales on the web. They're local to our area, so we visited their warehouse. We know their team. Absolutely amazing company. Check them out at pristineauction.com. You can join for free, browse their auctions, hundreds of daily auctions. It's really satisfying when you go in and browse daily auctions because you know you can participate and see the end result right away.
I saw someone just posted the famous Karate Kid crane kick signed poster. That was
wow.
Yeah, they have more than just sports. They have anything you need.
So when you sign up over there, pristineauction.com, Pristine auction.com, just let them know that the Fantasy Footballers sent you. All right, time for this next segment. We're probably going to have a debate about this drop.
I'm not dead.
What? Nothing. Here's your ninepence.
I'm not dead.
Here. He says he's not dead. Yes, he is.
I'm not.
He isn't? Well, he will be soon. He's very ill.
I'm getting better.
No.
Well, there you have it. The weirdest drop for an intro.
I don't
we
see
need
how
to talk
it's
about
possibly
this.
weird.
So Mike goes home, and to his credit, you spend time at your house for the company.
That's
you
right.
make a drop, and I don't want to.
You make all the drops.
I don't want it
You're
to.
an amazing
you know,
man.
I don't want to destroy you on this, but when you played that one for me, I didn't get it, man.
I understand that I do things sometimes that are too high concept for you, and you can't wrap your brain around it. The person who is saying I'm not dead, that's the fantasy player.
Okay.
That's our audience. They're saying I'm not dead, and the man,
I'm
the
getting
oppressor,
better.
is saying, yeah, you are. Get out of my face. You have nothing to offer me. And this fantasy player says, no, I'm getting better.
So what
this
you're
would
saying
not
here,
have
Mike,
made it into the show if Brooks hadn't liked it.
I support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So what
but
you're
that's
saying
because you
is-
like the movie. So if we just put a quote from any movie you like, you're going to be on board?
Perhaps.
Yeah, so
That's
it,
how life
Perhaps.
works,
it sounds
man.
like this show of 5 Ways to Get Better, we are the cure for the Black Plague.
Yeah, now we have to lean.
Absolutely.
Now we have to lean into it.
Incredible.
All right, 5 ways to become a better fantasy football player with Monty Python. All right, let's go with number one. One of my favorite things to talk
That's
about.
the best place to start.
Well, sure. You can't count down, Mike. You can go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I like to start at the
You ever
beginning.
done a podcast before?
I don't think these are weighted.
No,
right?
they're not.
This
They're
isn't
not
the
weighted. They're just
number
five
one.
Number
tips.
3.
They're just 5 tips. This is my favorite one to talk about, and it is this. Know your league, not just your roster, okay? Know your league, not just your roster, and this can be explained in any number of ways, and you guys can jump in and share what you think. But the way that your league mates play fantasy football, the way that they sign players, the way that they think about players, the way they think about your team, the way they draft, all of that has an impact on the way you play and the way your team performs and what you can do during the draft. And that may seem like, well, duh. But a lot of players don't play that way. A lot of players play with a cheat sheet out in front of them.
I'm on an island.
You're on an island. You're in a vacuum. You've got your cheat sheet and your blinders on. And I'm going to tell you from years and years of playing, my biggest wins, trade-wise, strategy-wise, have often come from knowing the people in my league, not just the players on the field.
Certainly. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind when we talk about this is, and I think we mentioned this, we alluded to it a couple episodes ago when we were talking about our pet peeves, but is taking advantage of the news guy. There's if there's someone in your league that is the new, like, he sees the news, he thinks he's got it first, and he's going to go out and immediately, before thinking things over, he's going to trade for the guy.
Orleans Darkwa coming to that guy's roster tomorrow.
You make sure that he's seen that link, and you go trade him Orleans Darkwa, or get Paul Perkins from his team super cheap. Those type of things. You do this all the time in our league.
You're speaking to me?
I am speaking to Andy. Andy always takes advantage of the one or two guys that are very news reactionary, and I say good for you.
And this has a lot of different impacts. One of the ways you need to think about your league and not just your roster is filtering the advice that you get, even from a show like this. Your league may have unique rules.
Yes,
that means unique rankings.
Scoring system. For example, if you're not aware of the Scotty Fish Bowl, it's this huge mega tournament that Scott Fish, shout out to my man Scott Fish, who puts this thing on every single year. It's massive.
Epic.
It's like 500 players or something in it. But every year he changes up the scoring system. For example, this year there is no PPR for wide receivers or running backs. However, there's PPR for tight ends. And then there's a point per first down. So this radically changes things, and we frequently get questions of people saying, well, if it's we have a PPR league, but I'm also getting a half point per carry. You're like, well, holy crap, man.
It changes some stuff.
That changes everything. Your David Johnson's at left bell, they go even further into the stratosphere, and so you have to know your scoring system. Do not enter your draft without making sure you know exactly how everything is going to be scored.
And I'm going to give you another example. Let's say you play in a league, and we get these type of questions all the time. You play in a league where, I don't know, maybe you're not big Patriots fans. Maybe everybody in the league isn't a big Patriots fan. Well, if you draft just based on our cheat sheet and you put everybody right in their ADP line, that's not knowing your league better than that's not knowing your league. It's knowing
and using it to your
ADP
advantage.
and using it to your advantage, because maybe you can get those Patriots 2 rounds later. Maybe you can trade a guy to the humongous, I don't know, the Charger fan in your league.
Absolutely.
Or I employ the late round quarterback strategy. I know that there are other guys in the league who they'll take theirs earlier, but let's say you play in a league where everyone takes their quarterback early. You can still wait, but there's going to be an earlier point where these guys are starting to take their backup quarterbacks, and you know that you have to jump in. You can't just wait infinitely because my strategy says I'm not going to grab a quarterback until the 14th round. You have to play to the room.
Yeah, and you learn the tendencies of both of your league mates and how they think and how they play.
And you know what? Write these things down.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
When you're in a draft, just pay attention to what these people are doing.
Yeah, some of them, the more years you play with the same people, you're going to get to know that.
Fair.
I mean, the two things that really come to mind are the news guy and then the fan guy. Though I mean, it's just natural to me now. I know the guys in my league, and I'm going to go immediately first. If I'm trading with a certain player, I'm going to go, do I have any Green Bay Packers? because they will be so much more valuable to him, and he wants them.
Yeah, and there's also the veterans guy and the draft picks guy and things like that.
Oh, the draft picks guy, the young guns guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And sometimes when you mock draft with players from your league, you learn their tendencies that way. And you can be so surprised. Sometimes you're so into, like, if you listen to this show every day or you're reading rankings every day, and then you go mock draft with a random person from your league, you might be shocked at where players are going and where they value them. So that is tip number 1, know your league, not just your roster.
Tip 1B is all that guys.
Take advantage.
Don't be those guys.
Don't be those guys.
be the guy that you go, oh, yeah, that guy's good at fantasy football.
That's right. You don't get anything by them.
Right.
All right, number 2, very important. How do you become a better fantasy football player? Oh, Jason's doing the guns with his hands. He's doing the guns.
What bullets? What kind of ammunition do you got there?
There's a quick draw. It's just a.
Find your quick draw. This is what it's written up as. Find your quick draw news option. Find your quick draw news. And what we mean is
potty news.
Okay.
Right? I mean, that's really what we're talking about here.
We're talking about Explain this hot tip.
Sure, the hot tip.
The explanation not needed.
You could call it
Don't visualize
the
this one.
quick draw news or the potty news or whatever you want. But basically, find your app or whatever. We don't need
your news source.
Yes, your news source that's quick. That's just, when you're doing something that is normally in your routine, whatever that is. Grab out your phone and look at that source and see if there's any updates. There's several different options for this. You don't have to obsess. People say, I don't have the time for fantasy football.
That's one of the intimidating factors for people even joining is thinking they're going to have to spend hours and hours studying.
Yeah, they don't want to have to look at the news every time they do something. That's why we're saying the quick draw, the short news,
for
quick
years.
access. You just get in the habit of look at it every now and then when you're doing something that's routine. It will change everything about how much you know about fantasy football. Now, we're doing this show right now in June, and you're listening to it. If you're listening in June, you probably have these apps.
Well, we might be your quick draw source.
Absolutely. So what are some good quick draw sources?
For years, for me, it was just RotoWorld. The RotoWorld app on my phone. Boom. Little refresh every time I was doing something. I love updating. I love checking. But I don't have time to obsess, and neither do you. I understand. Not everybody has time to obsess 24/7 about fantasy football. We've talked about the SleeperBot app. That's another great resource. It can be used quickly.
And they also have notifications, so maybe you didn't have time to check. Boom. They blow you up if something big happens.
And it's quantity. It's quality over quantity.
Right.
You don't have to be checking all the time. Just make sure you don't miss something important, and you can do that with a quick draw news app.
Twitter's a great one.
I want to stress the importance that is Twitter. Beat writers are on Twitter.
I will say this, though. Twitter's great, and you should be on Twitter. But if I had to choose between Twitter and the RotoWorld from an efficiency standpoint, I'm not going to choose Twitter.
Absolutely.
Because you'll miss stuff on Twitter. You will never miss something if you're looking at a headlines-oriented app.
I agree, but let's say you're the person who, I use RotoWorld. I open that up sometimes, but you want more. And you want to take that step forward. Twitter is the way forward, and what you can do. If you if you look at my profile, you could see what lists I'm following. There's a list of beat writers, and so Twitter has lists. You could just follow that list and switch over to look at the lists, and you could just scroll through nothing but NFL beat writers' Twitter accounts and see all sorts of stuff that never make it onto the headline-only apps, and it's still a quick draw.
I'm talking not just right now. In season, Sunday morning, Twitter is crucial when you're following these beat reporters who are talking about you had someone who was questionable. Well, they're going to give you an update on how that person looked. Were they running gingerly? Were they favoring that leg? Well, did it look like all systems were go for that player?
Is it blowing 40-mile-an-hour winds?
Right. Weather. Yeah, and late weather updates. There's so much information available on Twitter if you use it properly.
All right, so number 2, find your quick draw news option. All right, number 3.
This is my favorite.
Yes, and it's all-encompassing and very, very important for a player looking to get that extra stripe to level up their fantasy football play, and it is a simple overview, but we're going to dig deeper.
There is no fear in this dojo.
No.
The only thing to fear is fear itself.
Do not play afraid.
And bees.
But you can be afraid of bees. That's totally fine. Number 3, do not play afraid. Okay, in fantasy football, there are things that you're supposed to do. There are things that you're supposed to pay attention to. And what we're saying is when you want to level up from generic fantasy football player at the office to challenging, competitive player going for a title, you can't play afraid.
No, it's never going to work. If you there's a lot of different ways that it comes forward. Let's take the draft, right? That's one part of the season, a very important day in the life of all Americans. But at the draft
of the world,
maybe you're afraid you're in the 5th round and you don't have a quarterback yet. There's that fear, and maybe you draft one not because you think it's the right strategy, but because you're afraid to miss out or afraid of what would happen.
You're afraid of making a mistake. That's what it comes down to. You're afraid of making a mistake. You're afraid of not handcuffing. You're afraid of the bye weeks that are coming up. You're afraid of not filling your starters or not having a quarterback soon enough. You're afraid of the
strength of schedule.
The strength of schedule is going to push you all the way off a player. And
this guy's great, but he's got the 2nd hardest schedule this year.
And what that comes down to is it's being afraid of making a decision that might get you ridiculed because you're not going with the norm or the normative option. There is the safe choice, and then there is the one that gets you bad feedback. And I think the key to fantasy football is not being afraid, and that comes from a lot of different things. Talk about, like, the handcuffing situation, Mike.
This is great. I wanted to talk about handcuffing on the show. This is a perfect place to do it because if you're following the industry and Twitter, there's a lot of handcuff chatter going on right now. And we talk about handcuffs a lot on this show. So I want to spell out this is exactly how we do it. We do not draft our handcuffs. As fun as it is to say handcuff, and feel like you're safe and you're secure your running back position, we don't draft them. It's a waste of a spot. You are preventing ceiling. You are preventing late round flyers who give you value on a week-to-week basis to gain value on your bench. They waste that bench spot, and they always end up being your first cut. Yeah. After week 1, you're like, oh, well, I got to go get this new waiver hotness. Who's going to go? Oh, my handcuff. So you have removed taking a shot in the draft for this guy that you're going to eventually cut. At the beginning of the year, you think you know who the handcuff is.
A lot of times you don't.
But Niall Davis was not the handcuff, even though that guy was drafted for years. Now, on the flip side of that, there are times when I'm okay when you're drafting a handcuff. Your player is suspended.
Doug Martin.
And you know who the starter is going to be. I mean, even Doug Martin is we're pretty sure it's Jaquiz.
I am. But right. Yeah, but it could be Charles Sims.
It could be Sims. It could be Jeremy Nichols. I mean, we aren't positive on that. The only place you're more than positive is Pittsburgh because it's always one guy gets the entire job. However, while we don't draft them, as the season goes on, you're in week 6. That's when it's okay to start picking those guys up because you're getting ready for a playoff run. The waiver wire is mostly picked clean. These guys who are the backups start to emerge as who will be the leader of the timeshare. You pick them up, get ready for your playoff run, and that's when you do it.
And just to add to what Mike said, let's say you don't take your handcuff and somebody else takes their handcuff. Guess who their first cut is?
It's their
handcuff.
They're laughing at you until the end of week 1 when they then drop your handcuff and you can pick them up.
I love in week 3. Week 3 is always the time when someone who has my handcuff is desperate to trade him to me because he wants to cut him so bad, but he just thinks
that's an excellent point.
I mean, it just always I'll give him just give me anything for him. It's like no, just cut him and I'll pick him up.
When people come at you with trade offers for your handcuff in weeks 2 and week 3, no.
Yeah,
no,
because they're getting ready to drop that dude.
And then I just want to, in dynasty leagues though, I handcuff.
Sure.
In the late rounds, we're talking late teens. Yes, I will draft my handcuff.
Take a team.
In terms of bye weeks, being
different.
Afraid of bye weeks, another question we get all the time. Oh my goodness, do I take this guy? He has the same bye. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't pay attention to bye weeks.
I don't either.
I would say 0 point unless I'm in a best ball league.
Sure.
Yeah. Yes. You
or
must.
A super strange league where I don't get that many transactions or something. It's irrelevant to me. It's something a lot of people pay attention to. It's irrelevant to me.
Yeah.
I make enough transactions. I move enough players on my team. By the time my perfect bye week, I may draft to a perfect bye week. What are you going to do? Not trade players because you have them lined up perfectly? And what is perfect? Is it better to have them all in the same week? Is it better to have them all staggered?
Right.
I
yeah.
mean,
The
just
strategies
ignore
are,
them. Don't be afraid of them.
No, and I think after my draft last year in our league of record, I had like 3 wide receivers with a week 9 bye, and it was like, oh no, it never even
that's an eternity in
it
fantasy
never
football
even came
time.
up because by that time my roster was different. You know, you just don't want to feel like you have to make pick X because of reason Y. That's what you want to avoid. Just be confident in your knowledge. Don't be afraid. Pick who you want, and things will go better. You know, trust your gut a little bit when you're in that draft. Don't be reeling.
Agreed. So have we kind of grabbed that one?
I believe so.
Exhausted it? I mean, we could talk about things like not being afraid to fill your starters.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, that's one where, okay, you get your running back.
It's a
you get your wide
draft
receiver,
benefit.
Running back, wide receiver. Now, okay, maybe I take another one in the 5th, right? So now my flex is full. Well, that means that your quarterback and your tight end need to be your next 2 picks. Is the early fantasy football players' mindset, at least if they haven't already got their quarterback by then. But it's okay to keep drafting great bench options for the more important positions and not fill your starters just because you're afraid that you don't have a starter yet. It's not that big a deal. The more you listen and the more you do all the other tips, the less fearful you will be naturally.
Yep. All right, so know your league, not just your roster. Find that quick draw news option. And number 3 was don't play afraid, and we covered a number of areas where that applies. There are more than that, by the way. There are other areas where I think sometimes fear takes over.
Fear makes cowards of us all.
Sure. There you go. Monty Python again, right?
I think that was me.
Yeah, I know. Number 4, we've named it a couple of different things. I think the gist is this. It's the community of friends that you have. So how do you become a better fantasy football player? It seems strange, but I think making your friends better at fantasy football benefits you as a fantasy football player.
Yes.
And I'm saying it in the same way that maybe competitive people in business have realized this long ago. How do you get better at your craft? Well, you don't just absorb a book and hide in a corner. The best business people in the world, the best people at whatever trade they do, they network. They network for advice. They network to see how other people have played before them, and they learn from that. And so not only that, but it becomes more fun, and you all learn by osmosis to some degree, and you have a better opportunity to improve your game as a fantasy football player.
There's several ways to go about actively doing this because, you know, for us in you know, yesteryear when we worked at our video game company, we would go to lunch and naturally be around 4 or 5 of us from the league, and maybe that's your situation, in which case you understand the benefit of always talking about it and just having fun and talking about different players who suck or who are great or whatnot. But maybe you're in the position where you don't have that yet. Either the people that are in your league that you're playing with, maybe they don't know enough, and or they don't play. If you want to get yourself better at fantasy football, surround yourself with more people that play or introduce them to it. Or, I know this sounds backwards and crazy, but if you're in a league with someone who really stinks and they're not good at fantasy football, help get them better. I'm telling you, it will make you better, not just because you have to, you know, be better to beat the best, but it's because now you can have conversations with them. Now you can talk strategy. You can learn from more than just yourself. The ability to converse intelligently with those around you about fantasy football or anything, like you were bringing up on business,
yeah,
you're going to make yourself better.
We've always believed that the community of fantasy football players is the best situation for any player to enjoy what they're doing and to learn. And that's why we've gone out and we've set up our community at jointhefoot.com. That's why we've set up the forums on the website, our community, so people can talk. I mean, we learn from you. You learn from us. We try to teach you how to think about fantasy football, but we don't have every answer in the book. And so you need to have a community of people to talk about as you develop your paradigm, how you think about the game.
Well, when you're playing Punch-Out and you're beating up on Joe Glass.
Yeah. So how does that feel?
How many times do you do that until you're, I'm bored?
Now, see, Jason's the only person who actually gets satisfaction whooping anybody at anything, no matter what.
Jason,
That's really true.
Jason's still fine beating up on Soda Popinski.
Hey, I love beating Mike Tyson, too.
But beating Mike Tyson.
With a cheat code for Jason. But.
Hey, a win's a win, my man.
You're ruining my point.
All right, go on. You're basically saying, hey, the satisfaction of competing. Look, no, I don't like seeing those horrible trades go through in leagues where some player is getting taken advantage of it over and over again. But everybody, they keep their secrets close to the vest. Ooh, I'm going to hide my podcast. Ooh, I'm going to hide my magazine. And my secret cheats. Secrets. And I get that. I mean, I get wanting an advantage. You're trying to win, and people are probably listening and going, well, yeah, duh. Like you want, but thinking holistically about creating a great league. If you want a great league, I think you need great players. Yeah. And I think more often than not, people come to us and they say, you know, I'm in this league and I always win it, but, you know, 3 of the guys don't show up to play and then 2 rosters. I mean, sure, if you want to win those leagues, go ahead. But you're not having fun. Otherwise, you wouldn't be writing us and telling us that.
Win those 2.
Yeah.
Yes, also, just
sure,
get in a league with better players. So, yeah, have very good fantasy football players around you. If you don't have them, make them.
Build them out of clay.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem possible. All right, number 5. Number 5, Jason, you brought this one up.
Well, this was the one that, for me personally, actually leveled me up the most because I saw my problem, which this tip
Learn
is
to read.
Reading is so vital. I couldn't use Roto World. I couldn't read these great articles coming out because I couldn't read. And a good friend of mine sat down
William
and
Forrester
taught me how to read. No, it's to stay the course.
Number 5.
To stay the course throughout the season and beyond. Like, so here's what I used to do. I used to run a business, and, you know, fantasy football was very, you know, secondary, even
tertiary.
Though I loved it. I loved it so much.
Contortionary.
But here's what I ended up doing. A month before the draft, I would just, I'd gather everything I could. I loved it. Draft day was still just the best day of the year. And then the day after the draft was just this downward, you know, like, okay, I'm checking out more and more and more and more. Then the season hits week 1, I'm back active, and then I just kind of trail off when it comes to actually whether it was listening to podcasts or checking the news stuff, and especially so when it came to, if I didn't win the championship, if I got to the playoffs and was out week 1, which is week 13 in the NFL, or I don't make the playoffs, it's week 12 and I'm out, I checked out. I mean, I was completely 100% gone. I just was like, okay, well, the NFL's over because my fantasy team is over, other than my hometown team. I'd watch that, but I didn't follow any fantasy stuff. And going back, you know, a decade from that point, that was pretty much what happened. Was like I'd get to the playoffs and be out week 1 so often, and it wasn't until I finally went, I'm going to keep paying attention even when I'm out. And I'm going to, you know, press forward because I still enjoyed it. I loved listening to the podcast. I love, you know, reading the articles and checking the news. I don't know why I just checked out, but I kept doing that, and I did that through an off season, and it made me so much better the following season. So right now, if you're listening in June, maybe this is the first time you've done it, or maybe you plan to do it, but don't give up. Stay the course. You know, don't bail. That would be what I think would level a lot of people from a competitive player that's casual to a championship contending team.
Yeah. Stay the course. Keep fighting through it. I think it ties in a little bit with number 3 when we say don't play afraid, because I think you have a choice in week 3 or 4 if things are going bad to either bail entirely or to freak out and make a big trade because you're afraid of how things are going. I think staying the course helps the don't be afraid part of it too. Just kind of, it's almost like what they say as a GM of some of these teams, you know, trust the process a little bit because there are a lot of things outside of your control. So if in week 3 or 4 or 5, how you saw things playing out, trust me, it's not over. I make the very famous comment on the show, whatever happens can happen in reverse. So if you start off on the wrong foot, stay the course, don't bail. It can go the other direction. We had so many Foot Clan titles written into us last year of people saying, I started the year 1-5, and then I started thinking better about this, and I won my league. And I'm not just saying that. They actually wrote in.
Oh, the last 2 years.
What happened there?
We've had so many of those. Yeah, that's another one. Stay the course when you're losing because you can still win. Unless the playoffs are next week, just keep fighting.
Bad beats happen. They happen to all of us.
I hope they happen to you a lot this year, Mike.
I resent that remark.
Oh, I'll get you for that Monty Python drop. I will. I'll get you.
Oh, Twitter will get you.
Yeah, that's the sad part. The sad part is we do know that everyone's going to come to your defense,
Because
Mike,
it was great.
because they love Monty Python.
No, they want Mike to think they're cool. Mike's the cool guy.
You are cool, Mike.
Look at me with my man
I
bun
think you're a cool
Jason.
dude.
and my cool tattoos.
I had a man bun long time ago.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to call for the Foot Clan. You stand up right now, and you say no to these jokes. You say no to that drop, and you say no to gangbusters from Jason, and you take a stand
Who
right
you gonna
now.
call?
Oh, God.
Gangbusters.
Now, Smash Jackson, I give respect to.
Yeah, you got to take the good
The
with
first
the bad.
great nickname of 2017, out of thin air, Smash Jackson.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, it
Much
makes no
like
sense.
your drop, you should love it.
You know what's funny is after we talked about how Paul Perkins wasn't giving the love because of his name, and so because it's Perkins, it's Old Man Diner.
When things are going bad, you rebrand.
Yeah, you rebrand, so we rebrand him Smash Jackson. Sounds awesome. We spend a lunch watching all this Smash Jackson film. Worst name ever when it comes to actually matching a player. It's not that he was bad. It's just that he is not I think his parents named him pretty well.
But to be fair, we rebranded him Smash Jackson, and then the owner of said Smash Jackson in our Dynasty League, interest in that player did pick up.
That's true. They
He
got 2
received
trade
a
offers.
few offers.
If you're struggling with a player,
Rebrand.
All right. Well,
Run through the 5 again for everybody.
okay, let's run it back here. Number 1, know your league, not just your roster. All right, pay attention to your league mates, how they play. It's going to make a big difference for you as a fantasy player. Number 2, find your quick draw news option. We know that you do not have time to necessarily be obsessed with fantasy all day long, and we don't necessarily think you should be to that degree. If you got time to do it, go ahead.
But everyone potties.
Yeah, everybody goes to the bathroom. All right, so number 3, don't play afraid, all right? Don't play afraid of not taking a handcuff or paying attention to the bye weeks or filling out your starters or drafting a quarterback earlier, the strength of schedule, or 1,000 other things that people tell you have to do. Form your own opinion. Don't be afraid to play with some confidence in fantasy football. Number 4, it's all about that community, about making your league and your friends better. Network. Get out there. If it's to the website, thefantasyfootballers.com, you check out the forums, introduce some people.
FootClanLeagues.com.
Yeah. All right, and number 5, stay the course no matter what. Don't bail. Fight through. Stay the course on these decisions. You're going to look like you're wrong sometimes because that's how it works.
We're all wrong sometimes.
Some more than others.
Jason.
It ain't me, man.
Okay. So that is the 5 ways to get better as a fantasy player in 2017. Woo! How do you feel?
I feel almost electric.
I feel like he feels like he wants to sing a mailbag drop.
Sounds good to me.
Mailbag.
All right, time to answer questions from the Foot Clan. If you have a question, go to the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. Click the Submit a Question button or dial our voicemail hotline, 302-464-TFFB.
When your team starts off slow, you're 1-4, you look in the mirror and you say, I'm not dead yet. I'm getting better.
All right.
Well said.
It's
Bonjour, fellows. This is Ryan from Bismarck, North Dakota, and I've got a commissioner question for you guys. We've had a few league owners drop out recently, and my question is going to be, how do I handle the transition period for bringing in these new owners? It's a keeper league. Should I allow the new owners to capitalize off of the results of the previous owners' draft and trades, or should I give them a clean slate and let all the players go back into the draft pool for the upcoming season? Love the show. You guys do awesome. I listen to it every week. I would love to hear your thoughts on this issue. Thanks.
I'm going back and forth on this one a little bit because I'm pretty sure if you put this to a league vote, if these teams are in a fortuitous position, the league's just going to vote their players away.
They're going to vote selfishly.
Exactly.
Right.
So as a commissioner, you do have a responsibility to do what's in the best interest of the league here.
I think you can go one of two ways, and
he gave us 2 ways.
No, but I think the decision as to which route to make is pretty clear and obvious. If you're replacing one team, then someone needs to come in and just take over that team. But if you're replacing multiple teams, if you've got 2 or 3 teams, some teams are better than other teams. How do you decide which of these 3 guys gets them first? The first one gets them first, the second.
That's fair.
What I'm saying is if there's multiple teams, you take the players that were on those rosters only, not the other league owners that are staying, and you do a supplemental draft. You put
just those owners choosing from that pool.
You got 3 new owners. You put those 3 owners in a supplemental draft where they will draft their keepers based on the rules of all the players that would have been able to be kept from those teams.
What about the picks? You put those in the choice too?
Yeah, I would say all of the players, basically you have this really unique one-time draft where every team had their rules of where they drafted guys, and so, flip a coin, do whatever to pick who goes first, and you do a snake draft, and you say, I think the best, at the 101 spot, I'm going to take Melvin Gordon in the 7th round off of that team, and then it goes to the next player, and they draft. That's how I would do it.
I thought that was a really good idea.
Thanks.
Yeah, I did too.
I was going to say I'm going with whatever gets quality owners, and that might be, or more likely is, okay, you have keepers instead of washing out. You have no keepers. Meanwhile, everyone else has these values. So I think that's a great idea. Pool all the possible keepers.
That's pretty neat.
And then have the new owners do a supplemental draft.
It also would be good if you are not in this situation to establish what you're going to do in this situation in your league. So before it happens, it's always good because then you can take a vote because you don't know who's leaving. So you can take a league vote and say, all right, when we have to replace somebody, somebody's just taking them over or doing something different, and then you have agreement and no controversy.
There you go.
Belichick in New York.
Bill?
This question comes in from Belichick in New York.
Not New England.
Keep 1. Ezekiel Elliott for a first-round pick or Michael Thomas for an 8th-round pick.
Oh, my goodness.
It's not a tough choice for me. I realize I want one of the big 3, and I do, but it looks
That
like this
value.
is a single keeper league, meaning your draft pick in your first round is going to be very valuable. You're talking about a 2nd-round draft pick.
So what if it was, you might end up with Michael Thomas and Melvin Gordon instead of Zeke.
Exactly. And so I would take Michael Thomas in the 8th.
I will agree based on the 1 keeper thing.
I will also agree.
Triple agree. All right, voicemail question. Here we go.
Hey, this is Shaggy from Fort Wayne. Love this show. Lifetime listener. Quick question about keepers. I can either keep Julio Jones and ODB in the 1st and 2nd rounds, or get Terrelle Pryor and Belay Powell in the 11th and 12th rounds. Let me know what you guys think.
I was feverishly writing down I was writing down the options, and then I stopped writing down as soon as the options were have incredibly great players or mediocre players
But a value.
with a value. And to me, I'm going with the combo of incredibly great players. It's a great question to come on the heels of the Ezekiel Elliott or Michael Thomas, because Michael Thomas, to me, is still a great player. Bilal Powell is
A lot of potential.
What
but
if I told
maybe
you what I agree, and what you're saying is to go with Julio and ODB.
yes. For
What
sure.
if I told you, because obviously he's not going to lose his 1st and 2nd round pick if he went Pryor and Powell, right?
Right.
So what if I told you he would end up with either Julio or ODB for that first-round pick?
I would say that would be great.
I mean, because that might be the situation. These two are going to go back in the draft.
Sure.
Or would you ever take Pryor and ODB? Would you ever do something like that? Try to take ODB in the second, Pryor in the 11th? I probably can't do that, can you?
Yeah, I was going to
You'd
say.
probably
they're
be a
probably
first.
both first.
I'm going
yeah.
to take the studs.
Are you?
First and second. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if it turns out that you are the second pick in the draft, and so you know that Julio and ODB would be there, then maybe you pick the other two and one of those guys.
All right, Cameron in Sarasota Springs, New York, says, hey, guys, love the show. Earlier in the offseason, you posted an article about how unproductive rookie wide receivers have been historically. However, after the Titans drafted Corey Davis, you buried my man, Rishard Matthews. He was the 15th wide receiver in standard, 22 in PPR, and most of his production came in the second half of the season after he had developed a solid rapport with Marcus Mariota, particularly in the red zone. At the time of my writing, he is your consensus wide receiver 46 in half-point per reception leagues. Explain yourselves.
I think this one is
fair question.
It's a fair question, but it's easy to explain. Just because Corey Davis
may not
produce at a fantasy football stud level because he's a rookie, it doesn't mean he's not taking every single one of those snaps possibly away from Rishard Matthews. If he comes into that role and eats into his snaps, into his ability to produce, even if you said, okay, Rishard Matthews, if he's in that role, would outproduce Corey Davis in that role this year, they won't do that because they're going to put their future superstar in that role right now. That's kind of where the Titans are at. Now, I agree, maybe we've dropped him too much because Rishard Matthews isn't going to disappear. Maybe he will go, and be the 2 in the wide receiver 2 sets. Maybe we've dropped him too far.
Yeah, I don't look at those as interchangeable. I just looked at it the way you did. Last time that I had checked, we had Corey Davis like consensus 49.
Right.
And so that means we have Matthews higher. It's just a matter of, seeing how things shake out in camp a little bit. These situations with the rookies in particular, you've already seen it in Los Angeles with Mike Williams getting a little banged up, Tyrell Williams getting adjusted. There are targets that are going to go Corey Davis' way.
He brings up the fact that Rishard Matthews did most of his damage the second half of the year. If you actually look at when that happened, it was when Andre Johnson.
Yes, Andre Johnson retired.
Yeah, when Andre Johnson left the scene, then all of a sudden Rishard Matthews came into a good role. Well, now
what was he over the first half?
Oh, nothing. I mean,
about 46.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, we could have him too low. That's fair. I'm waiting a little bit. I want to see what Corey Davis starts to look like. I want to see what else they do in the offense.
Yeah, and there's certainly upside with Matthews. 9 touchdowns, though.
Outlier.
Yeah, I think that's an outlier for Matthews as much as I like him. I think
we've always liked him.
I think he's a good player, but Corey Davis was one body blow you had to absorb, and then you had Taywan Taylor just a couple rounds later. It might be just too much for Matthews.
Yeah, aren't they saying Taywan Taylor's looking really good?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
if there's one thing we know from Rishard Matthews is he can play well and then get completely kicked to the curb.
Yes.
It's happened before.
He has the ability. All right, that is it for today's podcast. Thank you so much for tuning into the show, supporting the podcast. Don't forget to check out FootClanGiveaway.com if you want to win a Lev Bell jersey. And if you're in the market for a trophy for your league, check out FantasyJocks.com. Use the code FOOTBALLERS.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.